Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Is that supposed to take the place of the clover then? Is that the thought of the radishes?
No, I mean, basically, it's all we do is mix it right in with the wheat. We don't at three pounds per acre. If you wanted to have clover too, I would think that you could probably put clover too and still do the oilseed radish. I don't know what the effect would be, but
the radishes died when the frost came, right?
When the radishes die when the frost comes. And to be honest, I mean, I've been out there looking at those and counting the number of radishes. For that short a growing season, the radishes don't get much taller than about this. The roots on the radishes maybe get to be at most a ½ inch around, maybe about 13 inches deep. So it's not like you get those big radishes that everybody sees, those great big honking oilseed radish where they hold it up and they're really proud of it, you know? We're nowhere close to those kind of radishes. And that's why we're really interested in, you know, we're trying to explain why this would be happening, what the effect is. Is it the brassica? Does it give you some additional channels in the soil so you get a little bit better water infiltration? Does it have some weed suppression capabilities? We're still kind of trying to figure out how that effect is actually occurring. That
radish is actually supposed to take up quite a bit of nitrogen, right?
It will take up nitrogen, but then one of the things we're finding with oilseed radish is it decays so quickly because it's a brassica. It's like cabbage and, you know, turnips and those types of things. And so when it decays really quick. They have a lot of water in them, and so it takes up a lot of nitrogen. It may be the wheat's the ideal system because it puts it back into the system when the wheat can use it. That might be another reason why it works for wheat, where at other crops it winter kills, goes back into the soil, and may actually get away before the next crop can use it.
Now, you didn't see any issues with the brassica growing faster than the wheat? You're starting to shade it out at all? Or?
No, not at all. No, the wheat pretty much, you know, beat it out. And you have to, in the fall, I mean, once it winter kills, you really have to hunt to find the oilseed. You know, it's not like you walk up to the wheat field and you go, oh, there it is, there it is. I mean, you have to really kind of look for it because it's not that, and it's only 3 pounds an acre. I mean, that is a pretty light seeding rate that we were using. It's not, you know, it's not like at 8 or 10 pounds per acre, which you'd see a lot more of. It's only 3 pounds an acre. As far as oilseed radish, we just have used the standard daikon oilseed radish. We did a study at the Rose Lake Plant Material Center a few years ago, and we looked at all those different oilseed radish products like Groundhog. They've branded Groundhog. We looked at Variety Not Stated. We looked at daikon. We looked at a whole bunch of different oilseed radishes. To be honest, we could not find any measurable difference between all the different types of oilseed radish that were out there. They all had similar growth rates. They had similar biomass production, similar root. Maybe a little bit difference in getting to flowering if you let them go long enough, so there may be a maturity difference. But we actually could not really find any difference between all those different types, which the people that brand theirs as being better probably don't like to hear. But you know, that's what the results said.
You just physically mix the seed in the planter box? Or?
Yep, we've got people who have done it all different ways. Dean Cantola gets his oilseed radish seed, takes it to the elevator and says, mix it in at this amount. And they mix it and deliver his wheat with it already mixed in. John Burke has a loading wagon. So as he's loading the wheat in, he just sprinkles the oilseed radish on top of the auger and lets that mix it going into the box. This year, I helped Jerry Heck do his this year, and all we did was he dumped in a couple bags of wheat, I dumped in some oilseed radish, mixed it up with the broom handle, dumped in some more, dumped in a little bit more. Yeah, there's nothing, there doesn't seem to be that it has to be extremely, you know, well mixed, or, I mean, I'm sure that it was adequately mixed, and it doesn't appear that there's a segregation problem like you get a whole bunch of oilseed radish in spots. It's pretty, at that level, it's pretty well mixed.
Would a guy still want to frost seed clover in the spring?
There's no reason why you couldn't frost seed clover in the spring, because the oilseed radish is winter killed, it's gone, and we're really big on frost seeding red clover. I think it's an excellent way to get a cover crop going. It's easy. It's during a time where you got time. You can go out there even with a quad with a broadcast spreader on the back and just put it on. And we have always been successful with frost seeded red clover. We've never frost seeded red clover and went, oh man, is that a bad stand? It really seems to be a reliable way to do a cover crop in wheat. I think I heard a horn a while ago, didn't I? Does that mean, what's that?
5-minute warning.
Oh, that was the 5-minute warning, okay. Take more questions.
Will the radishes control the weeds in the fall too? I mean, what does it
Well,
cover enough to keep the weeds down or no?
When I did the fall sampling at Dean Cantola's, he had a problem with poana throughout his field. And it was really obvious the spots that had oilseed radish had about half the weeds of the ones that didn't.
So it's kind
But-
of like rye a little bit, it suppresses the
It has,
germination?
yeah, it has some allelopathic, it's got glucosinolates and some of those chemicals that inhibit other plants. But on the other side, all of the other locations had done a really good job of spraying for weeds and were totally clean. And so the one that had the highest yield bump, there weren't weeds in that at all. That was really clean wheat. So I thought that might be part of the secret, but then when we realized there wasn't there,
And then you can't spray in the fall either with affinity or anything for the weeds.
no,
We got radishes in here, right?
yeah, well, probably not.
I think they're going to kill it.
Yeah,
Affinity will.
yeah, they're pretty sensitive to most. I'd have to look up, but I'm guessing I'm not that familiar with what
Because I'm going to
plants.
start spraying in the fall because in the spring and I put clover in there, I can't get rid of them weeds.
Uh-huh, yeah, yep.
Think this radish that you could start reducing nitrogen rates?
That's probably, I'm glad, I'm going to make a note of that, because I think if we should be able to see this year whether we get the effect again this year. And so I'll probably apply for a grant to do it again next year and try to do more about figuring out why we're getting that effect. And that would be good to maybe do a nitrogen rate study, do oilseed radish and do some different nitrogen rates and see if there's a with and without the oilseed radish. That might be a good addition. We're looking at planting date, we're looking at seeding rate. Maybe, you know, looking at nitrogen might be something else, and that could be the effect.
Plan now with radish and without radish, the standard nitrogen rate across all that.
Yeah, we haven't varied that. Basically, the only difference is that there's planter width strips, alternating planter width strips in the field with and without oilseed radish. The rest of the field's managed entirely the same. We haven't changed anything as far as managing those individual strips. The farmer then just goes and does whatever their normal practices are, and we compare with and without within those practices. So we aren't even making the farmers do the same thing with their herbicides or with their nitrogen, or we just say do whatever you would normally do to that field. Do the same thing to both. So the only difference is with and without oilseed radish.
Have you noticed any differences in the chemicals, the bean chemicals, on affecting the radishes?
On the what?
On the radishes. The bean chemicals you used previous.
Haven't noticed that. I think that's far enough removed Now we have had some issues. We were going to do some on-farm trials putting cover crops in soybeans, and right after soybeans you have to be careful. There's some carryover. There could be some carryover effects right after soybeans, but I think with the wheat in there, that's enough time, and adding another crop in, I think I'm not aware of anything that, but I think it could be an issue, like he was saying, if you were doing fall chemicals on your wheat, you'd have to check and make sure that's not going to kill your oilseed radish early. But there may be some choices where there's some chemicals you could use that wouldn't affect but the brassicas are pretty sensitive, to be honest. It doesn't take a lot to kill them. Yeah.
They generally all freeze out. There's some get away, or if you have a mild winter.
What we found is they pretty much freeze out. They're occasionally, we've seen it where if you get if you get kind of a mild winter with good snow cover the whole time, we've had some get away just because they're insulated and it doesn't get cold enough to freeze them out. But it tends to be, it's not like the whole field, it tends to be sections of the field. The other thing that happened, and I had that happen this year with one of our vegetable cooperators, he had a lot of residue left over in his wheat field. He no-till drilled the oilseed radish into the wheat field, didn't have the drill set up quite right, so he had sections where there was a lot of residue where it looks like he probably just laid the seed on top of the residue. So it didn't germinate in the fall, and then come spring he worked it up and then it germinated, so he had oilseed radish this spring. But it was really easy to kill. He used I think Lorax and took it right out, which was he's a carrot grower, so that took it right out. But I think sometimes it's not that it survives the winter, it just didn't, because of not having seed soil contact, it just makes it through the winter and then it germinates in the spring is probably more likely what's happening.